Welcome to Road Ready. For Season 1 and Episode 1 of Road Ready, I'd like to open with the topic of engine noises. Engine noises can plague a high-mileage vehicle. They could be inherent to a vehicle that you're buying, or they could even be part of a new vehicle that's still under warranty. Whether your current vehicle or a prospective purchase of a vehicle, or even a brand new vehicle, has a knock emanating from the engine compartment, we are concerned. So the question arises, do brand new engines in brand new vehicles have knocks? Years ago, when I worked with GMC trucks at Cunningham, Pontiac, and GMC dealership, we had 173 cubic inch, 2.8 liter T-trucks coming into the dealership under warranty with broken crankshafts. If they had air conditioning, they were even more prone to breaking. And that early 2.8 liter engine was also the engine that Jeep used in the launch of the Cherokee. So anyone with a motor vehicle that has an internal combustion engine should have an interest in engine knocks. I'm going to share details on how to diagnose an engine knock.
We bought our 1999 Jeep XJ Cherokee, a one-owner, with 94,000 original miles. It was a good runner.
We're now at 175,000 miles, and at around 125,000 miles, we started to hear a knocking noise in the engine or engine-driven accessories area. The noise occurs when the engine is cold predominantly, but not always cold. Sometimes it occurs when the engine's warmed up, but it's intermittent, which is really inconsistent for a major engine knock. Before tearing into the engine or condemning the condition of the engine itself, we're going to do some diagnostic tests that will confirm and pinpoint the source of the engine noise and the possible cause. At this point, we're not ruling out tune-related problems, possibly dirty injectors that are sending off the fuel trim and intermittently causing a lean knock in given cylinders. That's a possibility. Of course, we're not ruling out an internal engine noise. The 4-liter Jeep engine is developing a reputation for piston slap and piston skirt failure. Some of these later engines have actually had catastrophic failures related to a cracked or broken piston skirt. The culprit is supposedly the short skirts of the pistons, but this is unlikely since most modern engines have short skirt pistons. What is of concern to me, however, is the fact that this engine does not use a knock sensor. If the fuel trim is such that one or more cylinders are running in a lean condition enough to cause detonation, the engine may still be below the threshold for throwing an engine check code. A driver in this case is unaware of the existence of a lean condition in one or more cylinders, and the end result is the engine develops severe problems like a broken piston skirt. So let's get started. To pinpoint the knocking noise, we need a diagnostic tool capable of listening with precision to various areas of the engine and the engine-driven accessories. Our tool of choice is a Steelman Chassis Ear, although this same test, as you will see, can be performed with a stethoscope or something as simple as a tube of conduit or copper tubing. What I like about the Steelman tool is the 6 channels that you can play to pinpoint the sound or make comparisons between one area of noise and another. Each of these clips plug into a switch control, and the headphones connected to this control panel will give you a sense for the intensity of the knock and the area of the knock. Also in use is a decibel gauge, which has an added feature for probing without the clips and getting a pinpoint analysis of noises. This device can be held in this manner and transmits the noise to the headphone set. You can use this in areas like fuel injectors and literally listen in on the performance of a fuel injection system. Let's begin by testing the engine for ambient noise. We'll start it up and listen to what we would normally hear without the amplification of the Steelman tool. The ambient noise is very hard to pinpoint, almost impossible to tell where the sound is emanating from. It seems like the middle of the engine block. This noise could be easily mistaken for a piston slap. Unlike a piston pin noise, there's no double wrap when you tip into the throttle. We'll now use the Steelman Chassis Ear and go through each of the 6 channels to see if we can localize the noise. The Steelman Chassis Ear is hooked up to 6 strategic places on the engine to pick up sounds from the oil pan, including engine lower bearings, main end rods, any noises around the oil pump. At the distributor clamp bolt, the green clamp is connected. At this valve cover stud, the white lead is connected. The pink clamp is connected at the power steering pump housing to pick up noises from the power steering pump and adjacent engine-driven accessories. The blue lead is connected to the bracket for the air conditioner. This picks up upper cylinder and engine bracket noise. The 6th connector is hooked to the water pump flange, which will pick up timing cover and front of the engine noises. Each of these wire plugs is color-coded so that the control knob can switch to each of the zones in the engine. The Steelman headphone set is plugged into the control unit, picking up each of the zones as the control knob is switched between the color-coded clamps. Before starting the engine, make certain that all of the cabling is out of harm's way and in no way can get caught up in the fan, pulleys, or any of the moving parts of the front of the engine. We'll start with red at the base of the dipstick tube near the oil pan. This is the noise. Compare that sound with green, the distributor clamp bolt. Now we'll listen for white, the valve cover stud or upper valve train. Now we'll move to the left-hand side of the engine. Facing forward, this is the power steering pump housing. Now the AC bracket on the right-hand side of the engine. And finally, yellow, which is the water pump flange or close to the timing cover, listening for timing chain noise or possible scratching against the timing cover by the chain. It's not the AC bracket. It's not the valve cover stud. There is some noise at the distributor clamp bolt, and there is some noise at the base of the dipstick tube near the oil pan. The loudest point, though, seems like the water pump flange, which is close to the timing cover. In the interest of pinpointing the sound further, we'll isolate the noise to the timing cover itself. Shut the engine off and reposition one of the clamps. So now the probe is hooked up to the timing cover area, and this channel, the yellow channel, will be monitoring the noise coming from the timing cover. We'll start the engine. This is still not the knocking noise that we're looking for. We're going to try hooking up the probes, all 6 of them, to the injectors. This is a 6-cylinder engine, so that should not be difficult. This is a practical way to use the Steelman Chassis Ear. We have a clamp hooked up to each of the injectors. Red on number 1, green on number 2, white on number 3, pink on number 4, blue on number 5, and yellow on number 6. We may pick up engine noise from this point as well. So let's listen in on the injectors. We'll start up the engine and play each of the channels from 1 through 6 to see what the injectors and the injector area are projecting in terms of sound. Number 5 cylinder is quite loud. We're going to pull the number 5 spark plug wire off to take the load off that cylinder and see if that has an impact on noise. We're going to move on to the probe tester that has the decibel meter to probe individual areas of the engine and the fuel injectors. After extensive sonic testing of this engine, since the noise is intermittent and poses no immediate hazard for the engine, in fact this noise has gone on for 50,000 miles now, we're going to move on to some products that might clean up the valve train quieted down.
For routine cleaning of fuel injectors in the top engine, we use seafoam and the SUR&R FIC 203 fuel injection cleaning system. The FIC 903 will also clean the top engine.
So what have we learned from all of this? We've learned that the chassis ear is an excellent tool for diagnosing the distinctions between sounds. We now know the difference between the air conditioning bearing noise or timing chain and sprockets noise and the fuel injectors or power steering pump or water pump. My takeaway is that number 5 piston definitely has noise. The question is whether that is a carbon buildup on the exhaust valve, intake valve, and the piston crown, or whether there is something more serious going on. It's doubtful that it's something more serious because noises that are more serious don't go on for 50,000 miles, nor are they intermittent. It's definitely not a bearing noise. It's not broken rings, and it's not damage to the cylinder walls. There's no oil blow-by. So at this point, I'm going to be optimistic and say, let's clean the carbon off the crowns of the pistons and the valves and the intake and exhaust ports and clean up the injectors and see where we go from there. Episode 2, we're going to do a flush of the top engine and injectors and see what the results are. At that point, if there is some improvement, we'll do a major tune-up in episode 3. Episode 2 will tell us a lot.
Join us for episode 2 when we clean the top end of the engine and check again to see if the number 5 piston is still making noise. Cleaning the fuel injector pintles in the process can also make a huge difference.